Hello everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to... Wait, what the fuck is the name of my show? Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays. That's the name of it right there. I look down at the chat, but man, my brain is completely fried after this last weekend at TwitchCon and the immense amount of support that's come out on my Twitch channel. I wasn't going to leave that in. I was going to do another take, but I decided that stopping and thinking about it just made it all the more funny. Hey, I forgot my first name before. It happens sometimes. Just recording this on Monday live. That's why it's later. And what the... Who's driving a tractor? Or a tractor that sounds like a motorcycle. Anyway, I'm recording this on Monday, and I'm going to be posting it later the same day on Monday because of TwitchCon. Even though I live in San Diego, I spent the majority of my time at the con, and then when I came back, I was tired and I just wanted to relax. So I'm recording this live on Monday. I will have it posted late Monday. I told you this in the TwitchCon overview video. Real quick, before we move on to the questions, because I have a lot of ground to cover before I raid later. Videos at the bottom, a few things that were guides from last week or the TwitchCon video that I made earlier today, and as well as the ability to purchase Fan Festival stream tickets, finally. The price, the information, what it gets you, all those things. So anyway, on that note, with the videos out of the way, with the introduction fucked up, let's get into the questions, shall we? Alright, question number one. Hey, Mrhappy, just need an opinion on this question. On the HUD settings, what exactly is not necessary to have? So I'm somebody who likes to actually keep a lot of my HUD turned on. I know that some people just outright don't give a shit about seeing certain things. Like, I know some people disable the duty list. I know some people disable their mini-map. I know some people who even disable their party list because they feel that they don't need to actually see what the other party members are doing. They just need to see themselves, and they can react accordingly. Some people shrink them and move them into the corners. Some people remove tons of hotbars. Some people like having a lot of hotbars. A lot of people move their hotbars down towards the bottom. People sometimes even add chat windows. Like, you can break off the chat windows and have like 2 or 3 chat windows with different information in them. So I think that the things that most people end up getting rid of are things like the duty list or the mini-map, but nothing really else, because the buffs and debuff bar, the party list, your hotbars, they're all important things. So even if you're going to play minimalist, as opposed to removing things, try shrinking things. That's probably going to be your better bet. Alright, question number 2. Hello, Mrhappy. Mrhappy here, and welcome to... Wait, hello, everyone. Wait, did you just repeat my intro? How come you got it right and I couldn't on this episode? Hello, everyone. Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, where I ask questions and you answer them. That's not right. You're not Mrhappy. You did my intro better than I did on this episode, though, so kudos. Just a very short question here. The answer might be a bit longer, though. What did you enjoy the most, and what did you enjoy least about all the new content? So what I enjoy most so far is actually Alexander Savage. I always enjoy the raids. I always love seeing what they can do. And I feel that the difficulty of the normal mode stuff is a bit higher than it has been. It's actually pretty close to Midas in terms of the normal mode difficulty. Sophia... I like that a lot of the difficulty in this patch doesn't come from gear checks. It doesn't come from straight up DPS checks. It comes from more of like burst DPS checks. It comes from overall attentiveness to the fight. That's what made Coil successful as a raid, was even if you weren't the greatest, yeah, sometimes things would get really rough if you weren't really that good, but you didn't have to be the absolute best at your job in order to perform and do raiding at all. And this encourages you to do better. There's a lot of benefits, like mini phase skips. Sophia has mini phase skips. Alexander Savage has a lot of mini phase skips. So I actually don't think that it's so much that the raid tier is easier. It's just that you're not being punished as hard for making mistakes or for not being absolutely perfect. And it's something that they kind of need in the raid scene to revitalize it. I'm hoping what people see is that the new Alexander Savage, the creator, was beaten quickly enough, and that people go, oh, well, you know, it was beaten really quick, and so gear must not be a factor. So maybe I could do it this tier. You know, I can find some people, because even if people are screwing up, as long as they can do some of the mechanics, they should be okay. I do think that in terms of mechanics, they took it easy on A9 Savage. On A10, it gets a little crazy, but it's always manageable. A11 goes nuts, and A11's a lot of like reading what's happening very quickly and reacting to it in a pretty precise way. And then A12, I haven't done A12 Savage, I've only seen the video. I've done a good portion of A11, like more than half of the A11 Savage fight. And A12 Savage is, again, it's a lot of mechanical checks. There is, of course, some stress on getting the DPS enough out there, but it's really a lot more about precise positioning and doing the mechanics properly, because you can always recover if somebody dies, but you don't want to have to do that. You want to keep everyone alive as best as possible, so doing the mechanics takes priority over everything else. So that's going to be my answer. I think that Alexander Savage. I think the thing that I enjoy least is going to be squadrons and aquariums because I know I need to do squadrons, but I'm not a big fan of retainer ventures as is. So I don't really care too much about squadrons. I'm going to do it, but it's not going to be something I do happily. It's something that I'm going to do because I have to do it for the Grand Company upgrade. All right, next question. First of all, thank you for quoting me where I said super busy this morning, so no witty remarks. Appreciate that. Hey, Haps, here's two quick questions. One, what are your thoughts on the creator Savage? I think I just kind of covered that, so I'm going to skip over that question. And two, what are your chances of giving PC and PS4 Pro players the ability to have higher quality textures and graphics compared to what we have now once they get... I don't think getting rid of PS3 support demands that means that they will increase the graphics on the PS4 and the PC. PS3 basically has its own graphic settings. It has its own limits on the user interface. I don't think that dropping the PS3 necessarily means that a higher tier of graphics can be acquired. It does on some level, but they've already shown that just each different platform utilizes a different level of graphic textures and things like that. And I don't. It's not like you could make something look like 1.0 as long as it exists. The number of polygons you can use is clearly limited, even if the quality of those polygons isn't as great. But I don't see it getting like hyper realistic or anything like that. I don't see it. Basically, I don't see it going back to 1.0 graphics just because the PS3 is being removed from it. All right, next question. Hey, Happy, have a Doom Train trial as Monk. Now go suplex the train. I want to do Doom Plane. Yo, can we get a Doom Plane? I can't talk today. Doom Train trial, and I want to do it as 8 monks, unsynced one day. And to last week's question, in GTA, everyone plays machinist because of gun wielding. Don't ask the logic. Don't worry, you're not the first person who's made that logic, and it's dumb. It's not good logic. Would you be mad when Kefka enters as a slot through a rift in the void, killing off Regula and invites the Warrior of Light for dancing? Okay, I don't know why I bothered reading this, because this was a pretty big waste of a question. Yes, I would be mad. And from now on, I'm going to read questions before I actually answer them on Mondays with Mr. Happy, because that was a fucking waste of time. There could have been a real question here from the Twitch chat for this. Yeah, and I know it was a dancing mad. I get it. Dancing and mad. I didn't miss that, but still. Come on now. All right, next question. Hey, Haps, I have watched your videos online and watch Mondays with Mr. Happy all the time. Have a bonus of 500 scripture. Yes. That puts me just 50 scripture short of my weapon because I got my micro tombstone from A10 Savage. My question is, I'm deciding to play Ninja for this patch. What items would I get first out of the new Alex's scriptures? So first of all, if you're raiding... only if you're raiding does that matter. Second of all, I don't know your items off the top of my head. There's no way I could tell you definitively what items you need to pick up first. I will say this though, if you're not raiding, you have 7 weeks worth of scripture before you can get a weapon because you need each of the Alexandrian gears from A12 normal in order to get a weapon. And it's going to take 7 weeks for you to get that. In that time, you can get your scripture body, your scripture legs, and a scripture accessory before on week 7 picking up your scripture weapon. So I do recommend doing that if you're not raiding or you don't plan on beating A10 Savage. Otherwise, it's just pick pieces up as you go. You know, best of slot really doesn't matter at all this patch. It won't matter for the expansion because you're going to out-level your gear. So at level 70, your gear that you're wearing now won't be relevant. And B, there's no raid tier, but there's no like Savage raid tier, at least that we know of between now and the expansion. So it really just doesn't matter. Worrying about best of slot in the 3.4 patch is most likely the least problematic thing you'll have to think about it. Gear is really a reward this patch. So body, legs, accessory, weapon, and then the rest just go as you please. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. This is Final Asim, and welcome to my first question ever. For this question, your bonus is level 300 gear named after you. Man, that gear is going to be shit. Well, item level 300 would be like entry-level gear into the expansion practically. Or at least I imagine it'd be close to that. Not even entry-level, like dungeon, like level 69 giggity dungeon level armor. Anyways, my question is this. The Paladin is kind of like unwanted. I don't think it's on this patch especially. Like, Paladin is not an unwanted job. If anyone is really harping on any one individual job in this patch where gear and job is like next to not important, it's all about how you play, then tell those people to fuck off. Like, no, I won't play with a Paladin. It's not as good as a Dark Knight. No, shut up. It's fine. You play with the Paladin and you're going to fucking like it. All right? I'm watching you. I'm watching you, person who won't take the Paladin because they're not a Dark Knight. I'm watching you. Okay, I'm doing it. Okay. In your opinion, what would you do to Paladin? I don't think it needs to be. Here's the thing: nothing's gonna be on par with Warrior, short of giving everyone Storm's Path. Every one of the tanks Storm's Path. Even them having Storm's Eye is a huge boon to the tanks, because if you had no other slashing DPS, Warrior now becomes your only source of the slashing debuff. And even when you are a ninja and you have that slashing damage, you still make the Warrior do it. So, you know, I don't think you need to make Paladin on par with Warrior. I think you need to bring Warrior down. Like, everyone's like, oh, don't nerf jobs, just keep buffing them. The problem is, you're never going to have a perfect balance unless everything is completely the same. There's always going to be a job that's better, and then people go, well, this is less powerful than that. And then, oh, you should just buff this job. Don't nerf the other job, because if you nerf the other job, then people aren't going to like it as much. It's my job. Please don't touch it. Unless you literally want every single job to be exactly the same, there's no point in forcefully trying to make things on par with each other. Because you know what? It may be acceptable to use something, but you're always going to be able to look at both options, and if they have different skills and they bring different utilities, you're always going to value one over the other. That's just the bottom line. It made sense back in A Realm Reborn when there were only 2 tanks. Even though Warrior was, you know, kind of the favorite, you had Paladin for super crazy things like the amount of mitigation they had, hollowed ground, cover for cheesing certain mechanics. It made sense, but I mean, some people just ran double Warrior and didn't give a crap because it was still Warrior, and Warrior is super good. So, I just think it's not worth worrying about. Wait for the expansion when they rework jobs to concern yourself with this. Before then, anyone who's not taking a Paladin into the Creator Savage just because they're a Paladin is like, seriously, head, remove it. Just remove your head from the ass. Okay? That's what I need you to do. One more question. How do I get the new Grand Company rank? So from what I'm hearing, there was something data mined where they said that you need to do the level 40 mission with squadrons. So go do some squadrons. Definitely go do some squadrons. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. I hope you're having a great Sunday or Monday. It's Monday. Thank you for covering both days. Thanks for answering my PvP question several months ago. This is my second time asking. Not sure what to give, so have some water. HQ. Dasani. Anyway, I got 2 questions. With everyone expecting a Red Mage and Samurai, okay, I'm just going to say this right now. I saw the word Red Mage and Samurai. When it comes to talking about jobs for the next expansion, there is a main story spoiler that we're trying to keep out of here. So I'm not going to scroll down at all because I don't know if your question involves that said spoiler, and I'm going to be careful about that for the rest of the Mondays with Mr. Happy. But until next week, I'm on spoiler embargo for my channel just because I want people to have the opportunity to experience it themselves. I'm just letting you know that. With everyone expecting a Red Mage and a Samurai as the possible new jobs, you think there will only be 2 new jobs. With Heaven's job was announced in 2014, I was very surprised about the Astro being there. It seems Yoshi P isn't talking much about the 4.0 jobs. Well, he didn't talk about the 3.0 jobs prior to fan festivals either. You know, it's not like he gave us any reasonable hints regarding what would be the new jobs at 3.0 prior to Fan Festival. The first Fan Festival isn't until October 14th, so we shouldn't have heard much. The only teaser we really got about jobs prior to Fan Festival 2014 was in an interview before A Realm Reborn relaunched in 2013. Yoshi P said his personal favorite job that he'd like to add would be Machinist. I think it was Dark Knight and Machinist. Oh no, it was Red Mage and Machinist. He said, you know, talking about old school Final Fantasy jobs, I would really like to go with the Red Mage. I don't know what I do, but if I could pick a job from Tactics, I would pick the Machinist. That's exactly what he said. And what do you know? 2-3 years later, the Machinist was in the game. So which job from any Final Fantasy game would you be most surprised? Puppet Master. Puppet Master is just never going to get the love that I wanted to get. That was the only job I actually had fun playing in Final Fantasy 11. All the other jobs just bored the shit out of me, but not Puppet Master. Not Puppet Master. So I'd be really surprised if we saw Puppet Master. What should I expect at FanFest since it'll be your first time going? A lot of lines, hot sweaty people, bring deodorant, bring spray on deodorant, stick on deodorant, bring a fucking bubble to keep the smell of 3,000 video game nerds within a small enclosed space, myself included, because I'll probably stink at some point as well. In fact, this is personal advice for me on top of you. On top of that, wear very comfortable shoes, double stack your socks, wear comforters in your shoe, do something that'll make you comfortable standing for hours and hours and hours and hours, and then take a seat every now and again, and be ready to stand in a lot of lines, like lines that are at least an hour long. A lot of the times longer than that, especially. Next question. Hey Haps, thanks for being part of my daily Monday routine. As thanks, have an unnamed item lets you choose where to place 3 Wondrous Tales stickers. I only get to place 3 of them. Only 3. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. I've been getting really, really sick of Duty Finder. It seems that every trial, every roulette, there's always one insufferable person of a group that either refuse to do their job or just plain bad. I got to the point where I flat out refuse to do any of my dailies unless it's with friends or static. It's a very cynical attitude to have, but I've reached my breaking point. Is there anything I can do to possibly restore my faith in humanity? You know what I do? I just pick a job that I can go into the Duty Finder with and carry the whole thing. It's usually a tanker or a healer, but it makes my situation a lot more enjoyable. Personally, I like to go healer more than anything, because if a tank is like standing in everything, you know what? I just funnel heals into them. If a DPS keeps dying, I can decide when to res them, when not to res them, when I don't think it's worth my time, and I can add in a little bit more DPS as well, because a lot of healers don't DPS in the Duty Finder. So that's how I get my enjoyment out of doing random Duty Finders. Also on Ether Data Center, it's not as bad as you're describing here, so it's a little bit easier on me, but we do occasionally run across somebody who's not higher on the skill tier, is the best way I could think to say it. If you have time for another question, change 3 Wondrous Tales stickers to 5. If 14 adopted a choose your own path story mode as opposed to present, do you think it would improve or overcomplicate? I think it would overcomplicate things. I think there are some games where the story can be loose enough for you to kind of pick your own path. But in Final Fantasy 14 in particular, the narrative and the amount of voice work that you have to do becomes double as soon as you add a path. So if anything, you'd be sacrificing the length of the story for the ability to choose which story path you go down, because they can only reasonably get out X amount of story in the 3.5 month patch cycle. And asking them to do this is either asking to extend the patch cycle just for the sake of being able to make a single choice, and then again, half of the story you won't even see because you made one choice that changed the outcome of the rest of the thing. So that's another reason that's really hard to convince them to delay. It makes a lot more sense in single-player games, and it's fun occasionally in games like Star Wars: The Old Republic, but I don't think it really has a place here, and it would definitely overcomplicate the events going on inside of Final Fantasy XIV. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. I was in an A6 Savage static, but this morning I got kicked because apparently I don't do enough A6 Savage static. What does that mean? Like, there's no stat. Is there statics that still prog on Midas instead of just going straight to the creator? However, I'm almost never the one failing mechanics. Always someone else failing in mechanics. They are too focused on the DPS. I mean, it's not like my DPS is super low. I do like over 950, sometimes even over 1,000. As Black Mage, I 240 on FF logs. I'm constantly 5-10%. You can't say that top 5% is bad. Well, 1,000 DPS on A6 Savage. I don't know if that's unmerged between the encounters. I guess I don't know if that's okay still. That actually sounds like that's pretty low. That being said, I understand your struggle, and it's okay. Let me answer the questions directly. Question number 1: should I just ignore the mechanics because I lose so much DPS? Well, no, you can't ignore mechanics, but the thing about being there's dodging mechanics, and then there's playing to your job. You can dodge mechanics as a job and not you. Here's the thing: there are plenty of black mages that do the mechanics and do their job basically, and you can't say, "Oh, it's because I don't ignore mechanics. It's because I don't try to risk it for DPS." I did that a lot when I was like learning ninja and like bard and shit. When I was first learning those jobs, I said the same thing. Oh, I'm losing DPS because I'm playing it way too safe, and I'm losing auto attacks, or I'm losing combos, or things like that. And it ultimately comes down to then why aren't you trying to do it differently? Is it adequate to beat the fight? Yeah, but it doesn't improve your player's skill, and that's something that you always have to come into consideration. You ultimately can't just say, well, I have to choose between my DPS and mechanics. You should be asking yourself, how can I do the mechanics and still maintain a higher level of DPS? I think that's the real question that you should ask. So I noticed that you said you can't rotate the camera and click your skills. So if you're clicking your skills with your left mouse bar, that would be the first thing I'd practice going away from. I know people who actually occasionally click a skill and they otherwise play with the rest of their keyboard and they play fine. But I absolutely wouldn't recommend clicking your skills, clicking all of your skills. I would highly recommend making use of the right click to move the camera so you can more easily move with WASD, or making use of your strafe keys a little bit more often, because that can't be a reason. You can't just say I can't do this, I can't do that. It's, well, these are the things that are causing issues for me. How can I work on improving them? It's always better to not look at what you have to give up and look at how you can achieve both things while simultaneously improving yourself. Question number 2, do you think that the reason for kicking me is low DPS, even though I always handle mechanics, is justified? I think that if you have a refusal to improve, I feel like that's a bad attitude to have inside of a raid group. It's one thing to say, like, yeah, I'm definitely not playing as good as I could. I'm trying to improve, but I'm having a bit of trouble. To just saying, well, I do mechanics, so you shouldn't boot me because my DPS is lower. That's not real. Like, that's not a good defense. It's also not always the best reason to just boot someone because they have low DPS versus trying to talk to you. You don't mention here if they ever tried to discuss it with you or work on you with it, or if they just outright booted you. I would, yeah. So my chat just brought up what I was gonna say. I'd say here are the things based on both questions you should do. One, practice moving using both of your mouse and your keyboard. That could mean something as simple as using right click on your mouse to lock your camera, and then using left click. Like if you hold left and right click at the same time, you move, your character just moves forward, and you could just move your mouse to like basically decide where you want to go. I'd also recommend making greater use of the strafing capability. If you want to hold right click and do A and D, that strafes, but I actually like to do Q and E. I pretty much move with Q, W, E, R. I have forward, strafe left, strafe right, and back. And I only use back when I need to take like a couple of steps back pretty much. Otherwise, I pretty much exclusively move with Q, W, and E when it comes to progressing. If you get an MMO mouse, you'll have a lot of buttons. SteelSeries actually just is about to release their rival 500 mouse. I've been using it. I did a review on it. I can recommend it highly, but there are plenty of good mice out there. So if you want to shop around, I'm going to recommend it because SteelSeries sponsors, and I love this product. I've given away all my other mouse. Like, I've gone through so many other mice that have just like been super cheapy, and I'm glad that this one doesn't feel super cheapy. So it's been working really good for me. And just look at other ways around the problem. Don't just use this as your reason. I do mechanics, so I'm salty that they booted me. Yeah, it sucks when you're the guy who does the mechanics right, and the rest of the group that's going for the big DPS doesn't. It does suck. I totally hear you on that. But you just can't look to that being your excuse as to why you shouldn't improve to try and earn that spot in the raid. That is the big thing that I think that you need to do. All right, next question. Yo, Mr. Happy, by the time you read this, I'll be one day away from maxing my Vath reputation rank, so I have some Kongemato. Oh, that's the dong? Oh, you're just giving me the dong? I thought you were going to give me the mount in honor of this moment. Multiple questions of varying lengths this time, so thanks in advance for your questions. 1, can you get triple Triad cards from the unsynced dungeon runs? Yes, you can. 2, can you get, well, you can get them if they drop directly from the boss. If they drop from the chest and you don't get the chest from unsynced runs, then you won't get it that way. 2, can you get Sephiroth's card from Sephiroth hard mode? Yes, you can. It just has a much lower drop rate. That's actually where I got mine. 3, slight spoilers for 3.4. I haven't done it, so I'm going to skip that question entirely. 4, a binding coil pre 3.4, but I'll spoiler tag this just to be. Yeah, I'm going to skip both the spoiler tags. Like I said earlier, we're keeping this spoiler free this week. Next week won't be spoiler free because we'll have done the spoiler cast for State of the Realm, but I'm going to skip over these questions. Sorry, I got to skip over those. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. I hope you're enjoying 3.4. I am. Have a Sophie bird. Fuck you, Sato. Sato is the scholar who won my Sophia bird by 1. I rolled a 92. He rolled a 93. You fucking guy. This week, a few questions. What would be the best strategy for getting 3 lines in Chloe's notebook? Between shuffle and retry, I'm not sure. So first of all, retry doesn't move your sticker location. So it's completely useless in terms of trying to better your odds. Shuffle is the only way to move your sticker positions. That being said, with that out of the way, you pretty much have to, when you hit 7 stickers, you have to shuffle until you have 2 lines and you have a chance at a third. So you basically just, oh, I have 7 stickers, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Okay, I have 2 lines, and there's a possibility for a third line. In case you're wondering, if you look at a 4 grid, a good example would be a right triangle. If you have, like, an L on the, like, if you have an L formation, so it's like that. Oh, I guess that look like a backwards L to you, so let me do it. You, like, have this and this. That's 7 of your stickers, and then branching them in between to make the right triangle, that makes 3 lines. That's one of the formations you can land on. So I would highly recommend just shuffling until you get 2 lines, and then hoping, there's nothing else you can do other than pray after that your last 2 stickers line up. 2, is it worth getting the crafted weapons for Paladin? If you want to spend the money. The Sophia weapon, if you're able to get it, should be perfectly fine. I don't know the itemization, if like one is like full of parry and the other isn't. But, I mean, it's like I said earlier, gear has not really been a huge factor this patch. It doesn't seem like it will be going into the rest of the expansion. So, I wouldn't worry too much about it. If you want to, you could pick it up. 3, what would happen if the first 2 weeks of an even patch, normal raids, extreme raids could only be accessed through Duty Finder and only allow solo queuing? I would cry. That's what would happen. I would wait 2 weeks, and I would cry the entire 2 weeks. That's what I would do. All right, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. I got a few questions regarding the story. So, okay, so again, I can't do this. Like, I haven't even done it myself yet, guys. So I'm gonna skip over every story question because even I haven't done it yet because I've been busy with TwitchCon. So, next. All right, next question. Hey, Happy, first time poster. Your choice between one gill or one maple clog. I'll definitely take clogs. Are they real clogs? Because I would die to have a real pair of clogs. My question is what you think Final Fantasy's future is if 15 gets received poorly. I think the game looks pretty good, but a lot of Western critics these days just don't seem to hold JRPGs in the highest regard. And even in impression videos, some come off like they've already decided they hate the game. That's because it's Final Fantasy. Oh, it's not turn-based. It kind of scares me to think the series I hold so close to my heart could more or less come to an end on November 29th, depending on reviews from random people in an office, some of which who openly dislike JRPGs. So a lot of offices try to assign people who are at least fans of the series. Some of them don't give a shit, and you kind of just have to educate yourself. From what I can tell, most people who kind of go to regular sites like IGN and stuff who are actually reading the guides, a lot of them kind of know all of the individual reviewers and what they're known for reviewing, and they kind of spread the word like, yeah, that person doesn't even play JRPGs, they just stuck someone who usually plays like Battlefield on there and got his opinion, so I don't take it too seriously. And I feel like a lot of people who actually go to those sites actually know the difference between a critic who actually plays RPGs and a critic who doesn't play RPGs. If it's received poorly, you'll probably never see another console Final Fantasy, or at least another numbered console, another numbered Final Fantasy on console, because in the Japanese market, console gaming is kind of already shit the bed, and Square Enix, being a Japanese company, is pretty much relying entirely on the Western audience when it comes to their console releases, because we're the ones who still consume that content on a very regular basis. So I'm not too overly concerned, as long as it sells well in the West. Because if you think about it, 13 got really good reviews. Think about that. Final Fantasy 13 is one of the highest selling Final Fantasy games of all time. It was decently reviewed, like between an 8.5 and a 9.5 on a lot of websites. And you know what? Most Final Fantasy fans fucking hate that game. I don't, but most Final Fantasy fans hate that game. So, I mean, just think about that. Like, if the critics don't like it, but the fans like it, the sales numbers do all the speaking. And then if it's the other way around, then it almost has no measure. You know what I mean? It's just, I have a feeling the only thing 15 is going to get criticized for is the camera. At this point, I feel like that's the only thing, and the occasional bug, but that's going to happen with huge world games like that. I'm interested in seeing how it does, how the reviewers do it. I personally have loved it more and more, especially the most recent reveal of the gameplay, which has ironed out a lot of the graphical errors that I saw with the 1 hour demo that I played at PAX West. In a month, they've definitely made a lot of progress, so I'm impressed, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out. All right, next question. Hey, Happy, long time no see. I'll fill up your Wondrous Tales second chances, though. Thank you, and then I'll shuffle them and fuck it up over and over again. Odd lore-based question. In fact, this may be a bit of Ethos territory. Okay, so again, I'm actually going to hide this and read it real quick because I don't know if it's. Oh, never mind. This is fucking. I'm not even gonna be able to answer this. I just read fucking. I saw Babylonia and Zarathustra, and I was like, yeah, never mind. All right, so with the next part of the Warring Triad being Zervan the demon, and certain attacks being used by Sophia being called Gnosis, as well as Sephiroth's roots being in Babylonian myth, it seems to me that the Warring Triad is based off Zoroastrianism, an ancient religion with a creator god named Zervan, a being to represent all good and a being to represent all evil. A big part of the myth involves the concept of Zarathustra, which involves a concept of infinite recurrence, a universal reset button. FYI, the Zarathustra element itself was part of the Xenosaga 3 storyline. I think that Square Enix may have used this religion. You just said a bunch of fucking words that I know nothing about, so you know what? Yes, that's what they're doing. So that's my answer. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Definitely. All right, next question. Hi, Mr. Happy, longtime watcher, first-time asker. I have a bonus of completed Wondrous Tales journals with 3 lines. A few quick questions. 1, do you see yourself doing this for a living next 10, 20 years? That's actually a fantastic question. I was going to say an amazing question, then I wanted to use the word fantastic, so it said an fantastic question. No. I mean, in 10 years, we don't know where Twitch will be. Maybe it's possible. As cynical as it seems, I don't think it will be possible. I mean, between weighing how much my channel kind of puts Final Fantasy XIV on a pedestal, and then on top of that, the longevity of a broadcaster and a YouTube content creator's career. It's untested so far. We don't know how it lasts for the ages yet. So it's impossible for me to make a prediction, but I have a feeling the market's going to change so much in 10 years that even if I was doing something similar to what I was doing now, it would be through a completely different platform. I hope that's not the case because I love what I do, but you always have to think to the future, and I can't help but feel like even in the next 5 years, the landscape is going to change in such a huge way. Hell, before this year, a year from now even, the landscape is going to change massively, and people are going to feel a little uncomfortable with some of the things that happen probably. But overall, it'll probably make this a far more stable job. I mean, even with Twitch Prime, Amazon getting involved with Twitch is a huge thing, and I've talked about it so much. But that is a game changer to the next level that will bring partnered broadcasters and keep them loyal to that platform for a long time. So we'll see what happens with that one. 2, do you think they can make Creator Savage? Do you think they made Creator Savage easier because they want hardcore raiders to challenge Palace of the Dead? No. Even if they had made it the same difficulty as Midas Savage, it would have taken World First Raiders probably 2 weeks, and your Standard Raider probably 5 weeks. Your Standard Raider will probably beat the Creator Savage way before Palace of the Dead at this point. And then I'm talking about like standard, like the people who go like 3-4 times a week. Like that's kind of normal-ish to me because I've grown up with raiding. And then you have the very casual groups where it's 1 or 2 nights a week for a few hours and it's nice and simple. They can take as long as they want, as long as they're enjoying the content, that's all that matters. But I don't even think Palace of the Dead 101 to 200. I think it's just going to be a numbers game. I don't think it's going to be something hardcore raiders find difficult because it's difficult. They're probably just going to crank the numbers on the monsters you have to fight to such a ridiculous degree and throw bajillions of traps everywhere on the ground to the point where it's just fucking ridiculous. It's literally like every room is a goddamn maze you're trying to get through. But I don't think that has anything. I think it's just because the raid scene has been kind of shit this entire expansion because of what Gordius did, and Midas did not do much to undo it. I think they really wanted the creator to be the thing to undo it. 3, what do you think the reward for clearing Palace of the Dead level 200 being? Nothing. I mean, maybe you could pick up Gilmore and Potsherds or Accursed Hordes while you're climbing, but I don't think there will be any specific reward other than maybe an achievement and a title for doing the 200th floor for Palace of the Dead. They said the story technically ends on 100 and that they think that 200 is going to be pretty crazy for people to actually achieve. So I don't think the rewards are going to be massive for clearing the 200th floor of Palace of the Dead. Next question, Dear Mr. Happy 1227. All right, this looks like this one's going to be pretty long. Oh, it's not that long. It's just 2 paragraphs. 1, what's your opinion on the new auto attack and face targeting change? I find it to be the best quality. Oh, it's fantastic. I forget about it, honestly, and I still try to turn my I still try to make sure even when I'm dodging mechanics, I face the boss. But man, it's pretty big. When I remember that I'm doing that for no reason, I go, man, this is useful. It's also kind of silly to have to take that degree of skill out of the game because it's considered too difficult to utilize. But it definitely is useful. And it is definitely increasing people's DPS numbers. Any job that actually utilizes auto attacks, it's definitely helping them out. And you know what? If those players feel good about themselves, they play the game longer, they support the game longer. That's what matters to me. So I'm happy to see that people are enjoying it. And 2, I have a problem with FF logs, mainly because Statics have been using it as a justification to kick DPS players they don't feel are up to standard, comparing job numbers, of course. The main problem I see with FF logs is not display what gear the person was wearing. Well, you can usually... The thing is, it doesn't display it, but most people just immediately go to the lodestone and check their gear, so I wouldn't really consider that a problem with FF logs. It'd be nice if clicking on the name instead of bringing you to their FF logs website, or even making it so that on your FF logs page, it can redirect you to the lodestone. I'd say that that it's not really a big issue. It would be nice if the FF Logs website linked to Lodestone, but that's not really... That's people who are doing it for that reason are misusing FF Logs, and you also need to analyze raid composition, because it's not very uncommon for groups to actually literally do what are known as FF Log runs of fights, where they feed all of their resources into a single player's DPS to push them to the top of FF Logs. So... yeah, I wouldn't take... I don't agree with using that. Unless it's like they're doing 700 DPS. Or, they're someone who refuses to do better, or says they can't do any better, or anything like that. My video just froze massive. I did see that, guys. It's just, I don't know. It's an unfortunate way the way FFlog is used, but it's unavoidable. People like using numbers to make decisions. It's how businesses run. It's how honestly human beings run on numbers. I mean, whether you're doing your taxes or you're trying to figure out your wages for the year, can you go on that vacation, or a business trying to figure out, oh, what are my profit margins? What's my cost of acquisition on customers? Life is run by numbers, and unfortunately, FFlogs is no different. And I believe this is the last question on the forums, and then we'll move over to a few Twitch-specific questions. I still have quite a bit of time to do some question answering on Twitch itself. So, next question. Sup? Sorry, I know that's what he meant. I was just now watching your live recording of the Q&A and a previous question about a secondary stats made me remember that I wanted to ask this. What the frick is up with these troll stats on the Alex caster weapons? I know, dude, all of the weapons, like so many of the weapons have fucking troll stats. Like, hey, this black mage weapon, man, this has no spell speed on it. See that summoner weapon over there? See the summoner weapon? See it? You know, that spell speed on it? Oh, hey, you guys don't like parry on your weapons. Here's some parry. Here you go, little girl. There you go. Here's all the parry for you. Oh, I'm a machinist? Well, bards really like skill speed, so maybe machinists like them too. Skill speed, go fast like Sanic. There you go. So, yeah, it's I'm pretty salty about all the skill speed on my machinist weapon. I think he wants, maybe he's like, man, if we make all the substats on the non-creator savage weapon shitty, then people are motivated to do the anima weapon to get the good stats, or they'll do the creator savage. We win! Woohoo! Winner! Okay, that's probably why. That would be my number one guess. Anyway, let's move on to some Twitch questions. Thank you for your questions over on the Dream Network forums. If you want to ask a question on the Dream Network forums, just go to, if you're in the Twitch chat, just type !Dream, follow the link to the forums, go to mine, etc., etc. If you're watching this on YouTube, just click on the part below in the description with the Dream Network forums. Anyway, let's move on to some Twitch questions. Alright, so I'm going to take this question. It's a pretty basic one. Mr. Happy, what do you think needs to be done to make skill speed a valuable stat? I think it needs to scale with your global cooldown more than it does. Like 0.01 off your global cooldown for 25 skill speed is ridiculous. Second of all, I really think this is the more important one. Your TP regeneration needs to scale with skill speed. Like, that needs to be a thing. I don't think it should scale to the point where you have infinite TP. That's bad. But I feel that if they can increase the value at which skill speed affects your global cooldown and simultaneously make it so that TP still doesn't run out faster, that's the big thing. Is just, it sucks when you got to run out of your resource faster because you wanted to attack faster. And technically it makes sense, but that's why I don't think the TP scaling needs to be massive. It doesn't need to make it so you don't run out of TP as you get more skill speed. It just needs to be reasonable within regards, because if you're going to increase the power of skill speed but not increase TP regeneration, then it just floors way quicker. So I think that is the one thing they would need to do to skill speed. The other thing they could do is make dots tick faster, like they do in some other MMOs, but that would require an entire reworking of the way that the global tick system works for dots and hots, and I don't see them doing that. All right, next question. What's your opinions about 3.4 so far, Mr. Happy? So 3.4 overall, I feel, has been a general success, especially compared to a lot of the other Heavensward patches. Sophia is a very unique fight. A lot of Savage feels very unique. Savage is much more approachable this patch, so it may just be able to salvage the raid scene. We had a few minor features that actually added some decent gameplay. I've seen a lot of people dueling. I've seen a lot of people excited about aquariums, about finally getting the apartment housing. Apartments, I still don't like the way housing is done, but apartments basically were kind of what we were asking, where you could get a room that was you know, wasn't so limited. I mean, there's so many apartments available. It'll be a long time before they fill out the 30,000+ apartments that they have sitting waiting in case the 6,500 they started us with actually fill. It felt like they just had a much smarter approach. Like, they listened to feedback a lot better this patch than they had prior. I still think that as an even-numbered patch, it still faces the problem of there's nothing in between the super casual things like the main story and the dungeon, and then Sophia and Savage. I think Palace of the Dead's changes to the Accursed Horde kind of went unpraised, and the change and the new loot in the Aquapolis and some of the troll-ass changes in there went unpraised, and they're actually content that's still, of course, worth running. I think Aquapolis and Palace of the Dead have been two of the most successful features they've added in the expansion, and I'm happy to see that they're still supporting them. I think that what they should have done, if possible, was Palace of the Dead 51 through 100, but without making the reward all the way at the end fully attainable until patch 3.45, so that way people could do it, they could complete the story, but then they have a reason to go back and improve, and or maybe get a weapon when 3.45 comes out, along with floors 101 to 200. I think having Palace of the Dead on the even-numbered patch, as long as they could have staggered the reward in terms of the weapon itself, but still made a lot of use of the Accursed Horde, I think they would have been really good off with that one. Really well off with that decision, and that would have kind of fully rounded out 3.4 to the point where it was just perfect. I'm glad what they're doing in 3.45 and 3.5 with a lot of things. I'm happy that we have the Palace of the Dead coming a few weeks later. We have the Animal Weapon a few weeks later. The new feast season a few weeks later. 3.5 is really the patch I feel that kind of is going to run parallel to the way 2.5 did, where 2.5 was kind of like the epitome of everything that was great about A Realm Reborn. And I hope that 3.5 is true too, because they are supposedly going to be reworking and fixing the diadem in 3.5 with a new zone as well. You will have the cross-server party finder finally, so people won't have to worry about everybody moving to Gilgamesh in terms of getting raid experience, or that's the only pool of players that they can pull from for duties. Then you have, with that, you have the mobile app, which allow people to be a lot more social using Final Fantasy. You'll have you'll hopefully will have the crossover party finder, and we'll be able to use that to arrange PvP tournaments, because that's still the #1 thing they're missing from PvP. I still think the other thing that they still need to be working on, they need to make sure there's more PvP maps or more PvP modes per map. There's no reason that every single map should only have one mode. Shatter should have all the other modes. There should be a Seize in the Shatter in that map. In the Korthus lowlands, there should be a Slaughter. They should just have all the modes in every map. I mean, you have some of the resources to make that possible, and you just pick them up and drop them into this new area. Yes, you have to think about PvP balance, and I know that this is on the PvP team to do, but I feel like that's still the #1 problem. Incentivizing people to do PvP because it's only at high level and the gear rewards are glamour only, plus the amount that they add in every like month when they add a new map. And then just not enough different modes, not enough different maps. Basically, all anyone does is they just go to the most recent map that was released until they get their mount, and then they stop PvPing half the time. They need to stop releasing a mount per PvP map, because as soon as the hardcore people get that, then it kills the PvP. You just need to make it so there's maps in general for doing, like, make a mount. Here's the main thing. Add a mount for doing the roulette, for doing the PvP roulette. Populate all of the modes, and then if people want to select a specific mode, let them. Stop incentivizing individual maps so much. That is the big thing. So overall, 3.4, good. Could have been slightly better with the in-between content, but they did add some things that went unpraised, and I feel like that's a big thing to look at. Do Palace of the Dead for the Accursed Horde. Do Aquapolis for some of the crazy expensive rewards that come from there, and you'll probably enjoy the patch a whole hell of a lot more. Yeah, keep in mind, guys, you have the reason why they gave you 2 weeks for Wondrous Tales rewards is because if you cap scripture before finishing the Wondrous Tale rewards, they want you to keep it for the next week and use it at the beginning of the next week. All right, next question. Mr. Happy, I just got Final Fantasy 14. I was wondering if you had any suggestions for a new player. I have played 8. So first of all, having played a previous Final Fantasy game, 8+ years of MMO before. Yeah, I forgot that part at the end. 8+ years of MMO. So the biggest thing is Final Fantasy 14 is a much slower game in the early game. The global cooldown starts at 2.5 seconds. My #1 thing to recommend to you is learn how to use abilities in between your global cooldown and try to adequately learn how to play your class at the low levels. For some classes, that makes it even more boring. Like, honestly, Lancer, if nobody had ever told me Impulse Drive did 10 more potency than the first 2, like if I was a new player and I didn't math it out myself, then I would do my combo, and even though it's only 2 buttons versus 1, it's still more exciting than just spamming Impulse Drive. But do your best to learn the classes as you pick them up. That makes the longer global cooldown a little bit more enjoyable. The other thing is pay attention to all the content you can unlock. Anytime you see one of those exclamation marks with the little plus sign next to it, do that quest. It gives you a lot of content that you would probably otherwise not know about and not be able to enjoy. So many people missed the challenge log back in the day. So many people still miss Palace of the Dead. So many people miss basic unlocks for basic types of quests because they just skip that quest. I'd say those are the 2 most important things. And make sure that you're leveling your alternate classes. Make sure you're actually learning how to play them while you do, but make sure you're leveling alternate classes so you can pick up cross-class skills for when you pick up your job as well. All right, next question. I think I'm going to do one more question after this. So, Mr. Happy, how do you do the grind for Disciples of Hand and Land? Everyone always says watch a movie or something while leveling Crafters Gatherers, but as someone with only 1 monitor, how do you advise one survive the grind? Well, your phone. Use that for Netflix. So hook it up to your Wi-Fi and use your phone. On top of that, though, I do recommend that you spam. You got it. That's it. Just spam your leaves. Just go crazy with spamming your leaves. Some people get excited over the occasional HQ EXP buff for things like gathering or crafting. But man, it's not worth it going slower just to pay attention to that. I would say if you only have 1 monitor, then download it on your phone. That's the #1 piece of advice I have in that case. All right, and the last question that I'm going to take for Mondays with Mr. Happy this week says, at Mr. Happy 127. So, as the channel on Twitch has grown, do you feel more stressed or difficulty in maintaining it as opposed to a year or so ago? I feel like you've changed with the channel and brand. So, I'd say that I've wanted to change more than I have, and I've touched upon that in previous weeks where I wanted to not get away from Final Fantasy 14, but not lean on it so much. That being said, I'd say the hardest thing about it is balancing work and life. So I'm a workaholic. I feel better when I work, and that leads to me, if I spend 16 hours working and then, or maybe 14 hours a day working and then an hour or two watching like League of Legends or something, like that's my like game I watch to relax, to get away from everything, is I watch League of Legends. And especially Worlds, which has been amazing so far. God damn, it's the greatest Worlds we've ever had for League of Legends this year, and I'm really pissed I'm not going to the fucking finals. I'd say that balancing work and life, because like I have a girlfriend, I have a cat now, and I should really be doing more to maintain friendships. But when I go out and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, man, I could be completing this video, I could be working on that video, I should be finishing that. Man, I should be sending this email to this person. Oh, can I email them from my phone? Okay, I'll email them from my phone. Oh, babe, what was that you were saying? Oh, sorry, I was emailing somebody for work. Yeah, so that, and that just happens over and over again. Then I stream on Twitch for, 5 to 7 to 8 hours a day, and then I gotta work on YouTube, and then my raid group sometimes wants to go at a different time than that, and I don't want to screw them over because I'm someone who's like, I know what it's like to be screwed over by someone's schedule for raiding, and then I've been the one screwing people over for schedule and raiding. So it becomes a lot, and I actually like raiding on my own. I do it because I'm gonna make content on it, but I also really do enjoy raiding. That's like the number one thing I love about MMOs. And so making time for that is, again, really important to me. So it all adds up. I'm somebody, and I said this in the TwitchCon video, I'm very emotionally shielded when it comes to other people. I keep a lot inside because I don't like to express myself too much. A lot of that's because I want to maintain a positive opinion, a positive attitude in the broadcast, and I'm also not a professional, so I can't really give psychological advice. So if I start talking about my psychological issues or my mental health or my stress or my difficulty, then it kind of opens up Pandora's box and everybody feels like they can do it, but I can't offer the help that they want. Sometimes people just want somebody to listen, but then it's the same thing. I want to maintain a positive atmosphere, and that's not always possible. As soon as you kind of start to open up that sort of space to talk, you kind of have to understand that when it begins and when it ends. And that's up to not only myself, but that's up to the people who are in the channel and are being a part of that conversation as well. So our cat's name is Aloha Dwayne the Cat Johnson. Just saw that and I felt like I had to answer it. So it's very delicate. It's a very delicate balance. It's a lot more that goes into it than people kind of see. And I say that again a lot, where it's not just I sat in front of a computer and played a video game for God knows how many hours. It really comes down to how I prepare myself mentally for it, how I can watch my analytics, how I can make sure I'm properly rewarding people. Like, we've had a ton of Twitch Prime subs, and I feel like I have not adequately rewarded people for their support to the broadcast. And you think, like, oh, why do you have to reward them? They're making a conscious decision. But when you're somebody who earns your living, it's like when you're a server at, I guess this is a bad analogy, there's better analogies. It's like if you're a server at a restaurant, and yeah, like you're doing your best to make sure the service, it's not your food, but you're still making sure that the service is top notch, because these people are paying for your survival. You treat every single table like it's fucking King Midas himself, and I did do that on purpose, that's sitting at that table, because goddamn, do you want to walk away from that day having earned $1 more than you could have the day before? So it's I feel like there's so many important factors that are just never considered, and that is a big one. So it's tough. It's tough balancing both Twitch and YouTube, and then on top of that, trying to have a social life going out, because I get anxiety when I'm out. I should be home working and getting this done, and it's rough. Anyway, I could talk about that for hours on its own. I actually requested in the TwitchCon video, I said if anyone wants me to make a video about mental health, because that was a great panel. At TwitchCon, there was a mental health panel. Mel did the moderating for that, and then the rest of the panel was just great. And if anyone was ever curious on my thoughts, I would make a video, but It was their panel. It's not my panel. So I'm just glad that they did that panel and that they were able to touch a lot of people with that one. So on that one, I am going to wrap things up for this Mondays with Mr. Happy. Thank you for asking your questions. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, go to the description of the video. You can find the forum thread to ask your question for Mondays with Mr. Happy there. If you're live on Twitch, either A, you can go to type !dream in the chat. You can type !dream in the chat. It'll take you to the Dream Network website, and then you can click forums in the top right and go to the Mr. Happy 1227 section, and that should do it. Or you could just be here whenever I do Mondays with Mr. Happy. It's usually on Sundays around like 1:30 p.m. PDT. Today we did it on Monday, so because I missed it the other day before, and that'll probably happen next week as well. We'll see what actually ends up happening in terms of scheduling, because I will be streaming next Sunday after Fan Festival. Well, 2 Sundays from now after Fan Festival, so I shouldn't say next week is normal. 2 week after that, that's not normal. But anyway, thank you for watching. One more time, the videos under the stream before I forget, because I always do forget whenever I get into those specific topics that we go into with that one. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I am gonna wrap things up so I can get all the shit ton of work that I put off this whole weekend done. Yay! Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.